Russia was thought to be on the brink of civil war earlier on today when the Wagner Group mercenaries were on their way to Moscow, the country's capital. The West seems to be watching on with glee at the prospect of the fall of Vladimir Putin. But what if what comes next is worse? Now, I wouldn't be upset to see the back of Vladimir Putin. He is a deeply, deeply evil man. His illegal invasion of Ukraine is beyond the pale. But this Wagner Group, what do we know about them, this group of people who were marching, driving towards Moscow earlier on today? They're a group of mercenaries, mostly made up of convicts, some of whom proudly don Nazi swastikas on their armour. These would have been the people, if the coup was successful, who would have been in control of the largest military arsenal of nuclear weapons in the world. Isn't that a chilling prospect? Is it a good thing or a bad thing that the convoy seems to have turned back, according to our most recent reports? Who knows? Now, what comes next? Is Putin still in control of his country, really? Or is the leader of the Wagner Group pulling the strings from behind? And what does that mean for broader Western security? The prospect of a Russian civil war and the Ukrainian war happening at the same time should concern us deeply. But what do you think? When it comes to Wagner versus Putin, is it a case of better the devil you know? Now, this is a rapidly developing story, Leo. Since we came into the studio, it's been reported that the convoy has turned back around. Yeah. But what does this mean for Putin in power of Russia?
Well, he's not in power of Russia anymore. I mean, he's been completely exposed. He's not the strong man anymore. So Prigozhin is effectively the de facto leader, and he's calling the shots. But I'm not worried about Prigozhin being the leader. I think Putin's danger is he's fallen victim to the malaise that affects all dictators after a couple of decades in the job. He believes his own PR, and he's striving for legacy. So he wants to reunite the former Soviet states. Obviously, that didn't work out very well for him, but it's still a terrible war that he's continuing. Whereas Prigozhin just wants to be rich and powerful. So, and he's a Russian nationalist rather than trying to reunite this idea of a Soviet Union. So I think he'd be a much more rational person to deal with.
But Benjamin, can we trust whatever deal has been brokered between the leader of the Wagner Group and Vladimir Putin, they're both going to keep to their word?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure trust is the first word that comes to mind with these people. I feel, literally they are megalomaniac Nazis, right? Zelensky was asked if he cared if this meant that Putin might be dead, might be killed in the process of some coup coming up in the coming week. And he said he didn't care. And I think that's probably how pretty much everyone feels, right? These are a collection of awful people. I'd always thought that the only way to kill Putin would be to put some poison in his Botox based on the state of that place. But, I think it is difficult to say whether it's better or worse because these people are so unpredictable. I mean, I was always going to say, at least Putin seemed like somebody that understood the world stage, that comprehended, at least on some level, the structures around the world. He clearly gave that all up when he invaded Ukraine. I think what might be a good outcome to this is that the invasion of Ukraine has clearly gone catastrophically wrong from Russia's perspective. They are utterly useless. They are not strong at all. Maybe if they have a new leader, it gives them an excuse to back out of Ukraine without the embarrassment that Putin will feel personally, because I don't think he would back out anytime soon.
But it's interesting you say that that Zelensky doesn't care whether or not Putin dies. But, Emily, should we care whether Putin dies or whether Putin lives? Because could this just not lead to a massive destabilisation of the Russian state?
Well, this is my instant reaction. I look at a megalomaniac narcissist, which is
that me
Putin.
Or...
Sorry, yes. I won't put any poison in your Botox, don't worry. And I think it's a stark reminder of how unstable Russia is as a country. And I worry whether Putin will now go to even more catastrophic lengths in order to win this war or be seen to win this war. Could that mean nuclear? That is what I'm worried about. That is what people around the world are worried about. That is what we should be asking military experts and foreign affairs specialists. What happens next in Putin's mind? What would he be thinking at this moment? And he still does have the power to press that button, I believe.
But it's just such an unpredictable situation, Darren. Really, no one knows what comes next. What do you think is the exit strategy from this awful situation in Russia and Ukraine? You know, thousands of lives have been lost, billions has been spent in aid and on military aid. What's the exit strategy here?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I think the fastest way to get President Putin out of office would have been for Prince Harry to be able to interview him. I think that would have been the fastest way to get him out, which is reported, actually, that Prince Harry really wanted to do that because, you know, what the world needs in order to bring about peace is Prince Harry.
But what is the exit strategy?
I think the exit strategy, I think what Benjamin said there makes sense in that, you know, new leadership, a new direction. And actually, well, yeah, there's a first. And you start to be able to see a way of saying, right, we're going to pull back. But Putin was most recently waving about a peace deal that he'd apparently said was plausible and sent over to Ukraine. Ukraine flatly rejected it because, of course, they still want to keep on to Ukrainian territory. And I think that's probably the only way out, because Putin's ego is far too big for him to admit defeat, for him to actually admit that it's gone horribly wrong. And it's been the biggest geopolitical cock-up since Suez, maybe, you know?
I don't think it's the only way out. I think if we send Gaza to Moscow with a bucket of fried chicken and a fishing rod, I think this could be over by Monday.
It's true.
But, Leo, you said that you felt that it would be good to have the leader of the Wagner Group because you thought he was more of a rational thinker. Yeah. Is it rational thought for someone who said that earlier on today that the Ukrainian invasion was a bad idea?
It was a bad idea.
He was now turned back on that and is now probably going to rejoin the Ukrainian invasion. Is that rational thought to you?
Well, I mean, that's two separate things. I mean, he's been paid to conduct the Ukrainian invasion, but he doesn't think it's a good idea, and he doesn't think the Russian military, particularly Shoigu, the defence minister, and Gerasimov, or whatever he's called, the top general, he thinks they've been, apparently a condition of the deal is that those two resign. So Wagner, Prigozhin, they just want to get rich. They're mercenaries. They want to get rich. They want to run their diamond mines and whatever businesses they've got in Africa and everywhere else and get rich off the Russian state. And that's, I mean, it's a strange place when you're hankering for the good old days of oligarchs who just wanted to loot the wealth of a country instead of just having this idea of expanding their country. But that's where we are.